The thumbnail for this podcast consists of a series of pieces of fruit. Two of them rather unusual. Two of them are oversized kiwis, which as far as I know in France are called butterflies because of their double, almost wing structure, effectively two kiwi inside the same skin. And this phenomenon, besides they're very good, the only kind of kiwi which I find even more impressive in taste terms are what the French call kiwis rouges. They're basically pink-colored interiors, and they're small but exquisite. But these butterflies are yummy. Now, the butterfly phenomenon, to my knowledge, these are grown locally. The greengrocers I went to, I think, was from Mamanda, which I think is about 25 kilometers from where I live in Bordeaux. And so they've traveled a very short distance. And this business of traveling is one of my themes today. Now, the background of this story, curiously, has nothing to do with kiwi production in Mamanda, but everything to do about petrochemicals. When I began my serious life as a working person, I managed to find a job at a very serious Japanese investment house in Tokyo. I'd been to university there, so it all sort of made sense. And there were several people, and I was involved in supporting them. I did a lot of translation work for the petrochemical experts on staff. And one day, one of them, said, "David, explain something to me." I said, "Sure, I'll try." And he said, when I see Americans eating unpeeled apples, I always shudder inside. And I said, "Why?" He says, "Because I know about the petrochemicals that are used on the apples, both to keep insects at bay and also to aid the shipping process, because they often travel long distances. For example, in France, I think China is our major source of Fuji apples, despite the Japanese name. Onward. So that was 50 years ago. So now there's been a new health boom which emphasizes the benefits, the nutrients and vitamins and all kinds of fun, contained in the skin of fruit, even to a greater degree than in the fruit itself. And this includes kiwis and apples and pears. And the whole issue, of course, arises is, yes, there are health benefits from eating the skin, but what about the treatment of the fruit in the process of being produced? And you can see maps where I'm going here. I have argued that the French farmer has lost his way in the manner he treats his export markets. On the other hand, I'll tell you how I've responded to this greater access to health research data, which says really fruit that comes a long way is not recommended. There's a risk involved. And that's just the shipping process, let alone the need to defeat the insects which may spoil the fruit in the fields. And then there's the whole business of knowing where the fruit has been produced and under what conditions. Now, given all that, I wondered if really eating kiwi, the bulk of which in France come from South Africa and New Zealand, and perhaps for that matter China as well, how safe it is. Not because the local farmers have done bad things, but because the necessities of shipment over such long distances involves chemicals which are not benign. So in response to this, I've drawn up my skirts, and I'm just buying local. I buy butterfly kiwi from Mamanda, which is a shop and a jump from here, and nowhere else, because of the health issues. And because also I have found that it's really interesting, and I think there are health benefits from the skin. And so with butterflies, I'll cut them up and eat them. They make a very impressive green splotch on my morning fruit bowl. And I think this is really interesting. But notice what I have done. I've contradicted, if you will, on one level, my stance in favor of free trade and free trade agreements across the water, across the Atlantic, for example, to Latin America. And here I'm being as local-minded as any Frenchman who's skeptical, for example, of the European Union and the single market. We can talk about that in a second. Now, given that, how's one to proceed? And the answer is carefully. You keep in mind, you weigh the gains and losses, and you don't get stuck there. You aim and say, now how can we improve this shining hour? And that's one of the themes I'll develop in subsequent podcasts. But here I just wanted to alert the fact that if I wanted to put it succinctly, I would say, no, the French farmer has not lost his way. Certainly not on the question of butterfly kiwi. More to follow.